Good evening, everybody. I hope you are doing well all around the world. It's your boy Quantum Demetrio here, tuning in live for a first ever 3-in-1 topic: family, love, and business. Hopefully, you got to tune in earlier at our discussion about business, and it's going to be rounded out here with a little bit of knowledge, some esoteric wisdom, and some fundamental truths, if you will, because if you're following along, we just want to give you the advanced wisdom that your current fundamentals already exist and hold a truth. We don't want to take nothing away from you today. We want to give something back to you that is positive energy, love, and some just great vibes all around. So we appreciate you for tuning in. If it is at a later time, go ahead and hit that like button. We're going to keep this up and we're going to turn it into something great for you to always come back to and look at in the future, whether it be on TikTok or YouTube. It doesn't matter. Let us know where you're tuning in from, and if you have any questions to expand on this knowledge, we would love to help you out. So, we're going to start from the basics. Like I said, we're going to round it all out together. Basically, and if I do say some words, or if I do give any sponsors or some shout outs or answer some questions that you're not aware of, go ahead and hit that skip button. You can go 10 seconds ahead and go back to the topic at hand. So, some of these topics are a little bit taboo. I'm going to warn you. People don't like to talk about money, sex, and family relationships, sometimes politics. I don't add politics into any of my discussions really, but you'll see how this will play into politics, and sometimes we will relate to that because that's a real life um, truth and fundamental that we can grasp onto. So let's pause it for a quick second. I do have the three topics up here, so we're gonna maybe write some stuff down or come back to anything if we have to. But um, some of the lies I like to say a lot should be end up becoming positive. At the end of the day, lies shouldn't be looked at as a negative thing. They should be looked at as a revealing of the truth. And maybe we should get some definitions up here if anybody has the definition of that of an actual lie or meaning of lies. I don't look up some of those negative words, but let's keep this going. And if you're tuning in, please leave any questions, or if not, just let's roll with it. But we're gonna have a great time and talk about these three fundamental topics of reality. And it has to do a lot with branding and personal branding, because if you're gonna build something great, you has to have a good foundation. In order for you to know who you are, you have to know where you come from. So your family has a lot to do with it. You don't realize it, but um, a lot of people run away from their family, or they might have some family ties that they're not good with. You'll see a lot of like um what is it, mother-in-law, father-in-law, tie arguments or stuff like that. And that's just kind of a part of reality that we all have to grasp upon, that we can grow into, realize that's where our understanding of love came from, and end up building into our business life. So like I said, love is a huge part of our life. And a lot of it is also to do with our sexual understanding and reproductive, nature. And that's also taboo and it's not talked about a lot. We'll go into that in some of our other deeper topics or in discussions. I didn't write any notes down this time, but we did talk about time before and how time plays into um, our family. And if we notice that we're, well, first of all, we look and act a lot like our parents, and that's through genetics. So we have to get that fundamental truth of DNA, and that's why I like talking about science. If anybody was following along with some of the other discussions of time and enlightenment, science is a big part of it, and we have to get those fundamental truths down, if you will. And that's why its education system is really good. Whether it may not talk about some of these other deeper issues, it still does get us a lot of the basics. And I believe it does get dragged on a little bit too long. That's kind of in the politics, but uh, we end up having, so family ends up becoming a little bit distorted and causes a lot of emotional trauma that we as adults have to overcome in order to be roundabout individuals, because these people made us and these people taught us, and we have to learn how to basically love them, then love ourselves before we can love anybody else. So our family structure, and a lot of people who weren't raised with their biological parents, this is a reason why they have to do DNA, um, historical, background, family trees, or look up their parents, or go and search for their long lost parent, if you will, and just to get some understanding of who they were and where they came from in their life. This is one of the reasons why they should, and that void is filled whenever they do get that little bit of knowledge and understanding, is because of this fundamental nature of reality. We have to know where we come from, and it goes deeper and deeper and all that. So that's and once we figure that out, we can build a family structure based upon our lifestyle, our desires, our needs, and technically everybody in the community and everybody you encounter is a part of your family, whether you know it or not, and whether you choose to believe it. We're all connected, and we talked about it in our enlightenment topics. But that gives you an understanding of how love works and how you'll have these desires of lust and meeting people and learning how to, sacrifice for that individual that you believe is the one or the perfect person. And if we realize that there's two different types of love, and there's like a parental love, there's a sexual love, and there's probably really infinite amounts of love, really, when it comes down to it, because everything is love or God. But it can be translated in multiple ways, for even like a soldier dying for another person on the battlefield, or a soldier dying for his country, and things of that nature. So we can realize that these small words and emotions actually control our entire existence. And it boils down to the business of life. Business is kind of right in the middle, because that's actually one of our biggest, um, was going to say detractors or deterrents, but it's actually one of our biggest influencers of life. That's kind of like media, where money is, and that's where our family and love tends to follow, and then our enlightenment path and our time is kind of actually magnetized around money. So we could say that the more money that is out there, the faster the time will go. The less, the slower it will go. Imagine having no media and having Western, oh, they were shooting, pulling guns out, and they were, drawing out. They didn't have any entertainment. They couldn't text. They didn't have, that was their fastest they can go was on a horse and carriage. Now we sped the time up so much. We have skyscrapers, cell phones, we got laser beams, guns, we got droids. We we changed the time in 50 or 100 years since these old Western times was a lot different. So the prospects and our adaptability to these changes and evolution are 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 minuscule, and they're trying to catch up, if you will. And you'll see there's going to be a lot of good to it, but then there'll be some consequences, and we don't know about these consequences yet. Hopefully, AI and things of this nature can help us combat some of these diseases from blue light and diseases from scoliosis or back problems. And like I have suffered from back problems, and I've um, learned, a lot of different things. It's probably genetics, it's injuries, it's this or that. And those things are life changing experiences. Not only that, just traumatic experiences alter your DNA altogether, that we have to know about our um, what we call epigenetics. So when I talk about family, I say study epigenetics, and once we get to we can build on this we can build on this fundamental truth or these building blocks, then we can learn about where people actually get their family life from. And it usually comes from, believe it or not, TV, media. We learned a lot of our stuff from actual TV shows or even watching Neighbors. They call it the Joneses. And that's where the Truman Show comes into effect, and the Groundhog Day, where everybody's doing the same thing, copying the next person over and over every day. And that's where we get to where we're at. And this is where I talk also about how AI is uncontrollable because everybody's building on the next open source software that nobody actually knows where it came from and how it's being controlled. And technically, this is quantum evolution and quantum theory, that it almost can't be understood at a fundamental level. It has to be understood at an esoteric level. So, quantum computing and all that will hopefully come out, and when it does, it will solve some of these issues. And it is right now, and it's solving them in the point to where we have to shut this stuff down, pretty much. But and I don't think we should, but we should, at least everybody should understand this and start to research and do some of their own understanding on AI. So we're gonna get off of that topic, but we're gonna move on to love. How love came into play, and it came into actually watching that family structure, and loving. We end up tend to loving people like our parents or who they loved, and we end up, or sometimes it's the opposite. That's why they say opposites attract. It's a big key to it. And we see in science that we're connected to an opposite force. So I say that's why a lot of the times I say it could actually be the person next to you or the person in opposite side of the world that you're connected to, that sometimes your luck is given to them, and so if you always being, like, say in your first half of your life, you're always being lucky, in the last or the middle part of your life, you're kind of unlucky. Um, you're giving some of that energy to somebody else that can be lucky. And if you were to, be lucky the entire time, you'd be taking somebody else's energy, and that person would be suffering somewhere in the universe, if you will. This is kind of those esoteric understandings, but look into some movies or just watch the signs and you'll start to see how many people you are actually connected to, because it's not just one person in the universe, it's multiple people, and that person or is connected to other people and can give you some signs to see how that energy is bouncing off of you and other people. So you'll see how observation as well can give you, like, a person can look at you in a certain way and change the energetic level of your body, and have you a certain thought for the rest of the day. So this has to do with a lot of that. And you may not know that person or know why that thought came into your mind or how it works, but it's because you're connected to somebody else in another world and they're connected to that person. So you're not always just gonna feel it from the other person. Um, so another way you can think of it is that you will always feel like somebody's looking at you, or somebody's guiding you or touching you, or around even in the dark. So if you close your eyes, you'll actually be able to sense light and start to see objects if you were to focus deep enough. Everybody can do this. You'll see it'll start from a tiny dot and it'll expand into a brighter light from three horizons. Um, but expand onto these topics, and when you feel these love and emotions, it's because you're going to have heartbreaks, you're going to have detrimental and crisis. They call it midlife crises or crises whenever somebody dies around you. It could be at any time of your life, but you'll also have these spiritual insights that you're just needing to understand, and it can get you onto the next stage of your life. You shouldn't, like, throw yourself into these topics or throw yourself into personal development. This all has to do with personal development and getting a healthy body, a healthy mind. And this is kind of after yoga, breath work, tai chi, martial arts. You've already understood some of these um, hobbies, some of these experiential navigators of life. So you'll want to know a little more about the truth. It's what comes down to what I call losing religion. And you're not going to literally lose your religion, because your religion is a building block. That's a cornerstone. So you build onto your religion and you create your philosophy and your confidence in your own unique self. God or your religion never said that's the only follow. Like, I mean, there is some crazy there is some catchphrases and words, but and we'll go over some of these if anybody wants to debate any type of biblical scripture or anything like that that goes against my manifestation techniques or anything like that. We will. I just don't want to break any type of religion down now, because that's not that's not my place for you. I want you to do the research for yourself so I can relate any of these topics. And it does sound contrarian or contradictory. So when we become and we see these fundamental truths, we have to become a what I call contrarian, where we fight our previous life or mistakes and we see reality, and we kind of circle back. Everything becomes a cycle, you know, and we realize that we have to come back to who we are. So it's a wild experience and a wild journey, but we hope that anybody who is tuning in at any time of their life who sees this would grasp it with the open mind and the open heart, and not have to fight or deny themselves the ability to accept truth and humble themselves to gain more in life rather than deny themselves and settle for less. That's my thing. There's an infinite world of possibilities out there, and it's up to you to grasp these truths in order to get the power to receive them. And if you're not open-minded and you're not willing, then it's impossible for you to get them. And you have to do the work for yourself. You have to go out there and experience life. You have to get some failures, and you have to accept it and move forward. If you're alive and if you didn't do something stupid enough, and I'm not saying to do something stupid, I'm saying you didn't, if you're doing something so stupid, then you weren't listening enough. But if you did something so stupid because you didn't listen, then you have to come back to, I have to listen now because I'm putting myself out there so that way you can avoid the mistakes. Um, Everything is a cause and effect, and no matter where we're at, and I've been thinking a lot about how you could say there's other people out there, um, but the other people aren't aren't out there for any other reason than you putting them out there. Meaning, let's say, for instance, hmm, let's say, for instance, somebody called you in the middle of the night asking for help, and you feeling obligated has to go out there and help them. In this case, there is no predictable outcome for that future because you didn't put yourself out there. Somebody else put you out there. If this makes sense, the outcome of that is your also creation. So you can argue in other ways, but it comes down to whoever gave you that need to go and help somebody, they also created it. And you being in that DNA created it as well. So it can go in a lots of different circles, but we manifest our reality. We also control our destiny through these cause and effect. So I always say work it in reverse and you'll see the truth. Also, when you speak, speak in reverse or listen in reverse, and you'll be able to understand the truth. And this comes down to back to family. I believe people who are, after they break through this barrier of truth, they have telepathy. They don't need to speak to each other. If not, they're going to be arguing, they're going to be fighting, and that has to go with the opposites do attract. That energetic force can actually become one. Um, and when it does, it's a little bit too big to have anybody else involved in it. So you should just be two energetic powerhouse couples, if you will. And everybody can have that possibility, but it takes two people being powerhouse individuals already. And that's what I call a solid family structure, a true love structure to create a family, and that's what creates procreation. And it could go on forever or it could break up. And a lot of the times I like to talk about family because trauma is our biggest hindrance of spiritual growth, and 50% of couples, or maybe it's a little bit less or more whenever the study comes out or came out, but they're ending up in divorce or breakup or a broken home. And that's where I came from. So I want to capitalize on overcoming and overachieving this. And it's not a bad thing. Um, it's not a necessary thing. It's not something that people need to look at as taboo, kind of like money. We need to overcome some of these rudimentary issues and start getting past this and figuring out how we can have strong family structure, a strong love bond, even if the couples aren't together, and even if the money isn't involved, because I've noticed that money is pretty much tied into every part of our life, and it's kind of poisoned it and had it's tangled it up, and it's taken away some of the truth and fundamental nature, so we don't want to talk about it. It's kind of like politics. People don't like to talk about politics and religion and money. So we want to bring some of these things back out, and it comes back to even health, and let's get ourselves mentally healthy and stable, and I'm talking to myself, and that's really what I'm really doing here, and I'm wanting to encourage other people to come along with the journey and follow my business and venture. I don't believe in investing capital without, proof. And I built these companies up from the ground up. And I talk about branding and marketing and just anything to do with personal development. So if you're interested in any of these topics, do hit that like button, hit that follow button. Let me know where you're coming from. I'll say a prayer for you, and I encourage you to follow along. And I promise you, if you do the work, you're going to see the results. And that's all I got to say, guys. It's been about 27 minutes, and I love that number. We're going to end right about here, guys. Peace out and enjoy your weekend. We're going to be back on to round out this topic with business, because I didn't give you enough on branding here today. Gave you some earlier today, but I didn't give you any on this particular podcast. And I want to do that. Branding is super important. Business branding, personal branding, and I want this to change your life forever. Think about it and let me know if you need any personal industry related tips. I'll put that for you in the DM or the comments, whatever you choose. Peace out. Have a blessed day, and I love you. God bless.